webinar. Today we're going to be taking a look at QB POS, purchasing and receiving. We'll start out looking at purchasing. We'll take a look at purchase orders. We'll look at creating a purchase order. We'll look at editing and deleting a purchase order. We'll look at receiving merchandise from a purchase order. We'll also take a brief look at receiving items without a purchase order. We'll take a look at how you can adjust a voucher after you have received it. We'll look at adding freight or fees to one. We'll look at adjusting item costs or quantities, or talk about it. And we'll look at how to enter billing information. All right. So getting started here, I'm going to open up my point of sale. Make it a little bigger. So in our point of sale, we have our inventory list, which shows us all the various merchandise that we carry. Computer, I'm talking to you. All right, so we have our inventory list, which shows us all the various stuff that we carry. We can then order that merchandise. We can also add new stuff if we need to from any particular vendor that we may need to add from. So we want to start out creating a purchase order. We're going to go to purchase orders. Purchase orders allow us to order the stuff from our vendors that we need to get to replace our stock. On our purchase order, we have a place for a purchase order number. The vendor name, you'll notice both those items have red asterisks. They are both required. Depending on what you have set up for your preferences, the purchase order numbers will either automatically number themselves sequentially, or you have a few other choices you can choose for how the purchase order numbers are created. Or you can also manually type in a purchase order number if you desire. Under the vendor, we have the status of a purchase order. There are 4 different statuses you can have on a purchase order. You can have an open purchase order. That's a purchase order that you have created and that you have placed with your vendors. You can have a pending purchase order. That's one that you are in the process of creating but haven't yet placed with your vendor. You can have a suggested purchase order. That is one that the system has suggested that you order based on the reorder point you set for your items. And then there's also a closed purchase order. That is one that you have received all the merchandise that you ordered off of that purchase order, and so therefore it's closed. You really have no more use of that purchase order. Under status, we have enter items. You can click in there and type in an item name, an item number. You can scan an item into that field. You can also click on the pull down and select an item from your item list. We have our list of all of the stuff that we have ordered on our purchase order. Bottom left-hand corner, we have the number of items we've ordered, the quantity of items that we've ordered, how many items we have received, how many items are still due, and what percentage our purchase order is unfilled. How much have we still not received? We have a place to enter special instructions for this purchase order. We have a place to enter terms that our vendor is going to give us on this purchase order, as well as the due date we expect the purchase order to be. If it's not just standard terms, they're going to give you. Up in the upper right-hand corner, I have 2 address boxes, one that's a shipping address, one that's a billing address. When you have multiple stores, you have that. And if you click on the pull down, you can choose which store things are going to be billed to or shipped to. If you have multiple stores, you can only create purchase orders at the headquarters store. You can only create new items at the headquarters store. The purchase orders would have to be sent to the remote store, as well as any new items that you create would have to be sent to the remote store via the store exchange. We have the order date, the date we're placing the order. We have the ship date, the date we expect the vendor to ship this merchandise to us. We have a cancel date, if that applies, what date you do not want the order after, and who is placing the order, which is also going to be whoever is signed in to your point of sale. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the subtotal of the order. We have any discounts that you're expecting to receive on this order, any fees you're expecting to be charged on this order, and the total that you expect for the order. One thing that it does not have there is shipping. Shipping we have to add when we get to the actual voucher and receiving the voucher. All right. Any questions so far? No? All right. So, next thing we want to take a look at is actually adding some stuff to our purchase order. As I mentioned, you can click in and type in an item, and it will start locating those items for you. You can click on the pull-down arrow and see a list of items. You can click on Add New and add a new item. So first thing I want to do here is I'm going to choose the vendor. I don't care. No, I don't want that. Get out of there. I'm going to choose Ace as my vendor. Now, as I said, you can click in and add an item. You can scan an item. I can add an item number. You can also go over here to Find Items. The Find Items button will let you search for an item, or I like to go to the item list. This is going to show me a list of all my items. I can then sort this list by vendor. I can find where my vendor starts. I can then go down the list. I can see how many items I have on hand. I can see how many items I have on order, and I can decide which items I need to order. And when I find an item that I need to order, I can simply type into the dot quantity, and I can put in how many I want to order. So I enter in the items that I want to order. When I'm all done, I do a select. That's going to add those items to my purchase order. I can see that I ordered 17 different items, a total of 50 objects altogether. I still have all 50 due in, and I'm a 100% unfilled. The terms it picked up were net 30. That is the default terms that I have set for this vendor. It picks up the subtotal, gives me the place for discounts or fees, and again gives me the total for this particular voucher. I can print this voucher. I can save it. I can save and print it. If I choose to save and print it, it will open up. I can choose my printer that I want to print to, and I'm going to preview it. And we can see what the final purchase order would look like. You can print it. You can fax it to your vendor. You could mail it to your vendor. If you have Microsoft Outlook as your email handler, you can also email it to your vendor. So down here, under my purchase order list, you can now see that we have 2 purchase orders. We got the red circle with the 2. That will go up to 99, and then you get a plus 99 at that point. If we view that, we can see here is a previous purchase order that I've placed, and here's the new one that I just placed. When your merchandise comes in, you want to come to here and receive it. If you realize you need to add something to a purchase order before you've actually placed it with the vendor, you can edit that purchase order and add a new item. I could either go back to picking items from my list, or I can add a whole item, new item that I have never carried before. What type of item is it? It's going to be an inventory item. My department is going to be apparel. My vendor, which annoys me that it doesn't pick up the original vendor you put on the purchase order, is still going to be Ace. My item is going to be a logo cap. The caps come in, they're an adjustable size cap, so I'm going to call it adjustable. Whoop. If I put it in the right cell, I'll call it adjustable. And the attribute, they come in either black or brown. So I'm going to enter black. The retail of these caps is going to be $15. My cost on them is going to be $7, which is also going to be my average cost. But because I'm putting it on a purchase order, I'm going to receive it from the purchase order. I don't need to worry about the average cost. When I receive it, it will calculate the average cost for me. Because these caps come in 2 sizes, I want to create a style. So I'm going to go to Add or Edit Style. Yes, I will save my changes. And I'm going to add a second color. I'm going to order 5 of these in brown or black, and I'm going to order 5 of them in brown. We'll do a select, and it will add those to my purchase order. I can save my changes, or I can save and print my changes. And so you can add a new item on the fly when you're creating a purchase order if that item is a new item that you haven't carried previously. Any questions there? No? All right. Hi, Rob. Welcome. So, since I have these 2 purchase orders, the one here from Arcadia just showed up, so I want to receive that purchase order. I'm going to choose the Arcadia purchase order. I'm going to receive the items. I could go down the list here and specify how many of each item I got, or I can do a select all and continue. That will add all the items to my receiving voucher. Receiving voucher, I can go through the receiving voucher and I can add to or remove any items that I did not get. I can also adjust the quantity of any item if I didn't get them all. They did real good this time. I got all the stuff that I ordered. That brings me up with the choice. I can go over here if I want to, and I can print tags. If I choose print tags, I can choose to print all the tags for all the items, print document quantity, and when I print those, it's going to print the tag. It is going to show me the name of the item, the dollar amount, and because I had 2 of each item, I will get 2 tags for each item. In case you're wondering, the letters up here in the corner, in this case the SP is my department this item comes from. ARC is the vendor code for this item. And so it will go through and it will print all of my tags. I then, depending on how efficient this vendor is, could go over here and I could add any discounts, fees, or freight that I was charged, assuming I know that. If I don't know it, then I can wait until I actually get the invoice from the vendor. Then I can come back in and edit it, and I can add the billing info and or the discount fees and freights. Now, once I save this voucher, that merchandise is added to my inventory quantities, and that inventory, or that voucher cannot be changed other than adding billing info and discount fee and freight info. To find out that they've changed the cost on one of my items, I cannot fix it on the original voucher. I would need to copy the original voucher, make my changes on the copy, then go back and reverse the original one that I received. Because once you save that voucher, it becomes a history document, and you can't make changes to the history document that affect your inventory items. So we will save this, or actually I'll save and print it, so you can see what a printed voucher would look like. And that would be what our printed voucher would look like for all of our merchandise. We've now saved it. That voucher has now gone to my receiving history. And I can now see here it is. I can look at my details by doing a show details, and I can see what is on that voucher. I could reprint it if I desired. If, as I said, we found out that one of our costs was wrong, we could copy it, which will create an exact copy of that voucher. I could adjust the cost on any of my items that may have changed. Save that change. It will then adjust the cost on that item in my inventory. I would then go back and locate that original voucher, and I would reverse it. That would take those items I originally added inventory out of inventory at the cost I originally added them, because we added those items in a second time when we adjusted our cost, and we don't want double the number of items we should have. All right. Any questions on receiving vouchers? Aside from adding items from a purchase order, you can also go directly into a receiving voucher. You can select a vendor and then you can add items in your purchase order from that particular vendor. I'm seeing every vendor but the one I want. Oh, there it is. So now, when you're adding items here, again, you can enter the item number, you can enter an item description, you can scan the item, you can click on the pull down to find an item. You can also go all the way to the bottom of the list and choose List Select. List Select is slightly different from the selecting it from the item list in a voucher, because here, when it comes up, there's no document quantity column. Here I select an item, I go to the bottom, and I click the plus. That adds that item to my voucher. I could click the button multiple times and add multiple quantities of that item. Or I can select my next item and add that. When I'm done adding items, I can put the items on the voucher. That'll take me back to the voucher. And then here, I can adjust my quantities to the number that I wish to order. Once I have my quantities in place, again, I can save it. I can add billing info. I can add discounts, fees, and freight. If, and while I'm in the process of creating this voucher, I get interrupted, I can also put that voucher on hold. If I put the voucher on hold, I can come back and finish working on it and add more stuff to it. Where once I save it, I'm done with merchandise. So if I go to held vouchers, I can see which ones I have on hold. I can see what is on that voucher. Yep, that's the one I want to finish. I can unhold it, and then I can continue working on it. I could add some freight to it if I wanted to. It will adjust the overall cost. It will add the freight. I can save it, and now that voucher joined my other one over here in receiving history, and it has added that quantity to my on-hand merchandise. All right. You had a question, Sharon?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you were going to cover returns.
Yes, we can do that. I don't know why that's not on my list. It should be. So, yes.
Okay.
Should you have any merchandise that you need to return to a vendor, the easiest way to do it is create a, well, you got two choices. One, depending on how much items you need to return from a receiving voucher, you might want to check that, select that receiving voucher, and you might want to do a return to vendor. And that will allow you to return all of this merchandise to your vendor. If you don't need to return it all, again, you can adjust your quantities and say, I only need to return one of these items because for some reason I had one that was damaged from each group. That will then take that item out of inventory and allow you to return it to the vendor, and you'll get your credit for it. I will remove my freight because I'm not going to be charging the same freight on the return. And so I've got my items and the credit I'm going to get from the vendor. All right. And did you have any other questions, David? I can't seem to get it to pop up my question box. I hate it when it eats my question boxes. Okay. Does that answer your question, Sharon?
Yes. So the credit that you're showing here on the return voucher,
Right.
if you do an update to QuickBooks Financial, then does the item receipt show a credit balance in Financial?
Right. And so what we get is we get the return voucher.
Right.
And that will create an adjustment for us in QuickBooks Financial.
Oh, under that.
Right. And we can also add billing info. And we can say this was a RMA. And we can say that was for today. And that will send it over to QuickBooks.
Okay.
As a credit.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All right. See, that's about everything. We looked at our inventory to creating a purchase order. We looked at creating a purchase order using existing inventory, adding a new item to inventory. We looked at editing a purchase order. We didn't look at deleting purchase orders, but purchase orders, once you have received them, really don't have any value anymore because they now exist as a receiving voucher. And if we go up here to our view, we can look at all purchase orders, and you can see any purchase orders you may have that are closed. Really don't need a closed purchase order, so you can delete a closed purchase order. I can select them and delete them one at a time. I can click on the first one. I can shift click on the last one and select a group. I could also do a control click to select non-sequential vouchers, or purchase orders. I can then go to I want to delete POs, and I can delete those purchase orders. Because I chose more than one, I have to verify that, yes, I do want to delete those, and they all go away. I can also stop that. I can also delete an active purchase order. If I didn't want this purchase order anymore, because I decided I changed my mind, didn't want to order that, I could also go up here and delete that, and it's not going to have any qualms at all with deleting that purchase order. So you can delete a purchase order that you've received part of, that you haven't received any of, or when there's been closed. You might have a purchase order that you received part of the order, but now it's been a month or so, and they've never sent you the stuff you didn't receive. So you've come to the conclusion they're not going to send you those back-ordered items. You can delete that purchase order and get rid of it, since you know you're never going to receive the back-ordered items. All right. Speaking of back-ordered items, if you have a purchase order and you go to receive the items off the purchase order, and you decide, or the vendor decides, that they're not going to send me these extra larges because they're out of stock at the moment, and so I take those off of my purchase order. So when I save my voucher, if I go back and look at my purchase orders, that purchase order is still there. I can see that I received most of the stuff, but I did not receive those extra large t-shirts. Those are still on back order. When they show up, all I've got to do is go up here to receive items. The only thing that's going to show up is what was still due on that purchase order. I can select those items. It will add them to a voucher, and I can receive those. And so I can receive my back-ordered items. I now have no open purchase orders that are pending. All right. So that's about all I have for receiving vouchers, unless you have any questions for me. I sent you that message there in chat mode, David, because they won't let me look at your questions if you have any other ones. All right. So I guess we don't have any other questions. If you do have any questions, you can always feel free to drop me a note at Darrell F, DARRELLF @bighairydog.com, or you can drop us a note at tech@bighairydog.com, TECH, and I will take a look at that. If it's something I can easily answer in an email, I'll be glad to answer you back in the email. If it's something that seems too complicated, then I will drop it into or give you a call, and so we can discuss it. You're also always free to give us a call, and we can help you out with any issues that you may have. All right. So I hope you got some good stuff. And like I said, feel free to give us a call or drop me a note, and we will talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Bye-bye.